I read this book, so you don't have to, and I'm going to teach you every single lesson I learned, reading it front to back as fast as possible. Let's go. Now, I'm going to go through every single chapter and share the biggest takeaways and things that you can apply in your life. I'm going to break this down chapter by chapter so you can easily go through the section that you want. Let's go. Chapter 1, Commandments of Credit Cards. And he wrote 6, but when I read the book, I defined 8. Here they are. Treat your credit card like a debit card. If you couldn't pay for it in cash, don't buy it. Find a few credit cards that you like. Some examples of good ones are Chase, Freedom Unlimited, Capital One Venture. Most big banks will have a good card that gives you decent rewards. Don't carry debt that harms your credit. Keep your credit card usage under 30% of whatever your total limit is. If that is $10,000, you should never have a balance of more than $3,000 at any given time. If you travel often, find a card that gives you unique benefits that you will use. Most commonly, this is with airline and hotel points, so you can get free trips later. Check fees and your APR regularly. Often, fees can be removed or eliminated with a little bit of negotiation. Use perks. Your card can get you special reservations, gift cards, upgraded seats on an airline, a free hotel room. A lot of people like to accumulate these points and save them. In general, if you have a use for it and you could use it and it would benefit you, go for it. Just like that special wine that's been on the cabinet for years, open it and enjoy it when you have it, because maybe you won't need it later. Don't waste hours saving pennies. Some people talk about having dozens of credit cards for all these specific reasons, and that's just not necessary. You should find a few credit cards that work well for you, use them, and move on. Chapter 1, Section 2, Paying Off Debt. If you're facing debt, there's a couple strategies that you should implement to make sure that you get it paid off. And you can decide which one works best for you depending on what you like. Strategy number 1 is to pay off the biggest debts first. Just look at what debt is the biggest, pay it off. Strategy number 2 is to look at the biggest interest rates debt and pay those off first. There's other strategies that people apply, such as paying the smaller debts so you get little wins, and if that's what you need, then hey, you should go for it. The most important thing is to have a plan to tackle your debt. Most importantly, set milestones along the way. Just like the mobile game that you haven't been able to turn down, those little notifications and reminders of, hey, I'm making good progress, psychologically helps you so much. If you're on a fitness journey, you want to know when you can run an 8-minute mile or when you lose those 10 pounds because it motivates you to keep going. Do the same thing with your debts. Chapter 2, use a high yield savings. If you're going to leave your money in a bank to have it be secure, at least find decent interest rates. Obviously, rates are different depending on the economy. Shop around, find the best yield savings, and use that one. Generally, local banks and credit unions are going to have the best rates for you. Chapter 3, as early as possible, max out your 401k and your Roth IRA. This is one of the biggest regrets that people have as they near retirement, and make sure that if your employer offers benefits or match, you should use that because it's free money later. Also, max out any other benefits your employer offers you, whether that's healthcare, investment match, insurance. Just if it's there and it's free, use it. Most importantly, automate investing so you don't have to think about it. And we'll talk about this more in depth in a later chapter. Chapter 4, spend consciously. This is going to look different for everybody. Some people might want envelopes of cash and they don't go over that budget. Some people do it all online. Some people have more, some have less, but overall, you need to be conscious of what you spend. You see, money is just like your health. You can go around and spend a bunch and not track it. Similarly, you could go and eat whatever you wanted and not track it. But at the end, you're going to have a body you either like or dislike. And either way, you're not going to know how you got there, so you couldn't repeat it. Just like if you're trying to get in shape, track what you spend. The 24-hour test. This means if you want to buy something, you should wait 24 hours. And if you still want to, and your life would still improve buying it, then you should. Obviously, for larger purchases like a car or a house, you should take more time. Avoid subscriptions wherever possible. I know this is hard to say in today's world where everything is a subscription and they do it because it makes them money, and that means it's losing you money. So whenever possible, avoid subscriptions. To help you spend consciously, you should put up a clear barrier to entry to spend. Some people do this with automated alerts. They put spending limits on credit cards. Whatever you need to do, if that's cash in an envelope, if that's a credit card limit, if that's setting up your best friend's phone number on your account so they can see when you make big purchases, do it and your future self will thank you. Chapter 5, automate behaviors that you want and make behaviors that you don't want harder. In general, this means make saving and investing easier and make spending harder. The simplest ways to do this are to have whatever your income source is, the money go directly into wherever you want first, if that's a savings account or investment, and then you get the remainder that you can use for your daily living expenses. Obviously, depending on your situation, this may or may not be viable, but as soon as it is, it's a great way to automate hitting goals that are going to help you more in the long run and give you more freedom. This means auto-paying your bills, your mortgage, any credit card payments, car payments, or other loans that you have, so that the money that you do get, you can allocate appropriately. You should be able to set apart a budget for spending money and be able to spend that guilt-free. In the book, he references a friend who has $21,000 a year of pure joy expenses. This is part of her budget that she can spend and enjoy however she wants. This makes spending and shopping guilt-free and allows you to still have those pleasures without limiting yourself or your future goals. Chapter 6, professional wine testers are clueless. Nobody knows where the market is truly going. Experts hide their poor performance. Wealth managers and financial advisors are usually riding you, so find credible sources of financial knowledge that you trust and use those. If it sounds complicated, they're probably making it complicated to trick you, because finances at its core are pretty simple. Chapter 7, investing. Don't try to time the market, you'll fail. Pick stocks that you want, that have value, that you would want to hold in 20 years' time, and usually things will turn out positive. Decide if you want high risk, high reward investing or low risk, low reward investing. Low reward does not mean bad, it means it's more secure. In general, the older you are, the less risk you want, and you can be riskier when you're younger because you have more time to make it up. Dollar cost average. This is simply to set aside a certain amount of money each month that goes into an investment regardless of the market or what it does. For example, $100 each month into a mutual fund, regardless of whether the market is high or low, it just goes in. Over time, on average, hence dollar cost averaging, it usually turns out quite well. Most importantly, invest in what you know. If you know business, invest in businesses. If you know art, do art. Real estate, do real estate. You're not going to beat a master of their trade if you're new, and somebody new isn't going to beat you in your trade aside from pure luck. So stick to what you know and do it well. Chapter 8, be honest about what you want and why. I can't think of anybody who would say they wouldn't want to be rich, but not everybody wants to do what is required of them to get there. And that's not a bad thing. When you have a financial model that works for you, keep it and work on growing it. Don't worry about taxes. If you want to live in California and you have a higher state tax, but your life will be more enjoyable if you're there, you should live in California. When you're 80 years old, you're not going to think about the 10% you saved by living somewhere that you didn't want to live. Instead, you're going to miss the opportunities that you didn't get by not living where you wanted to live. If eventually the money is not going to be yours because you're going to move on and the world is too, then just enjoy it while you have it. Don't act on impulse. It will ruin your long-term goals. People see the market start to drop or rise and they want to sell or buy, and acting on impulse will almost always lead worse returns than just investing on a consistent cadence. Chapter 9, define what a rich life means to you. Is it relationships? Is it money? Is it family? Is it a spouse? Is it kids? Whatever is the most important to you, you should pursue that and make that the focus of your financial goals. Again, when you're 80, you're not going to think about the money that you could or could not have saved. You're going to think about, did I enjoy my life? Did I have experiences that made it worth living? Don't share specific numbers with others unless you really, really trust them. Even then, it's usually best to keep those to yourself. It will either make them resentful or make them pity you, and usually neither is a good long-term outcome. If you have a significant other and you have different financial views, it can be the end of a relationship, and that's hard, but that's okay. And if you're going into a new relationship, you should bring every single account, bill, balance, credit, debt that you have on a table when you guys are both in a good mentality and open, and spend as much time as is needed to hash everything out together. What's fair for one couple doesn't mean it works for the other, but if you have a system that you've agreed upon together and works for you, then you should roll with that. There you have it, all 9 chapters and the key takeaway points for every single part of the book. If I had to summarize this into just one paragraph, I would say, know what you spend, track your money like you track your calories. Set aside a budget to do things that you enjoy, because when you're older, you're going to remember the time when you went on a trip with your friends to Machu Picchu when you were 21 years old. You're not going to remember how you saved that extra $2,000 to try to save up for an old Kia. And that's a true life story. I'm so glad that I spent it on experiences with my friends that I will never forget, and relationships that are built because of that I'm going to treasure forever. There you have it. I will teach you to be rich, summarized as fast as possible. If you have questions, let me know below, and you're awesome. See ya.